NTA International News.
Federal government supports one China policy, severs diplomatic ties with Taiwan. President Muhammadu Buhari reaffirms determination to ensure safe return of remaining Chibok girls. Nigeria evolves strategic plan to end hunger by 2030. Good to have you join us on the news on NTA International. I am Segun, Lawale. A high-level strategic meeting on national security presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari has ended in the State House. The meeting, which lasted over 5 hours behind closed doors, was attended by the Minister of Defense, the National Security Advisor, Service Chiefs, Inspector General of Police, as well as Directors General of the Department of the State Security and the National Intelligence Agency. Defense Minister Mansurudan Ali and the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, told newsmen that the meeting critically analyzed ongoing operations in parts of the country and charted the best way forward.
To come to a conclusion on almost all the crises that are happening across the country. Like the southern Kaduna, the Niger Delta issues and other major crisis areas were discussed and resolution were passed.
Any new directive from the Commander-in-Chief?
Directive is still there. We are still pursuing it. It is a task that must be accomplished at all costs. No, our troops are already in southern Kaduna. We have our special forces operating there, along with all other security agencies. And we intend also to have an exercise very soon in southern Kaduna to cover some parts of Plateau and indeed part of Kano State completely. So it's part of our strategy also this year to continue all the exercises we've had before.
In the meantime, the federal government says it is unrelenting in its efforts to ensure the safe return of the remaining Chibok schoolgirls who are still in captivity. President Muhammadu Buhari gave the assurance while responding to a letter written to him by Ms. Malala Yousafzai, the co-founder of the Malala Fund. President Buhari said while he cannot divulge the details of the ongoing negotiations to secure the release of the girls due to the sensitive nature of the negotiations, he gave an assurance of the doggedness, commitment and sincerity of the Nigerian federal government towards ensuring the safe return of the Chibok girls and indeed all others still in captivity. In the letter, signed on his behalf by the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the President said the gallant troops of the Nigerian military have recently scored a great victory by seizing control of the Sambisa forest, the last stronghold of the Boko Haram elements who are responsible for the kidnap of the girls. President Muhammadu Buhari will leave Abuja this Friday to Banjul, the Gambia, as the leader of ECOWAS mediation team to meet with President Yahya Jammeh of the Gambia and the President-elect Adama Barrow to continue dialogue on the political situation in the West African country. The President will be joined by President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia and Chairperson of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government, President Ernest Koroma of Sierra Leone, and the immediate past President of Ghana, John Mahama, who is the co-mediator of the Gambian mission. Later same day, President Buhari will travel to Bamako to participate in the 27th African-France Summit. The Summit for Partnership, Peace and Emergence, convened by French President François Hollande, is aimed at strengthening cooperation between France and African countries in the areas of peace and security, economic partnership and development. At the summit, President Buhari is expected to reaffirm Nigeria's commitment to global efforts on the war against terror and underline the need for improved collaboration to address the menace of terrorism in the region. President Buhari will use the opportunity of the summit to underscore efforts government is making to improve Nigeria's business environment to attract more foreign direct investment. The President will be accompanied by governors Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State, and Abiola Ajimobi of Oyo State, the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Interior, and Defense. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, says Nigeria is committed to the One China policy. The minister said this at a press briefing with his Chinese counterpart in Abuja. Gabriel Odu reports.
The One China policy recognizes Taiwan as a territory of China. China regards Taiwan as a breakaway province and does not consider it as sovereign state. Minister of Foreign Affairs reaffirms Nigeria's commitment to the One China policy.
The People's Republic of China is a member of the United Nations, and we also wanted to agree and leave no doubts, no contradictions in our relationship with the government and the people of China about our position on the issue of One China policy. We adhere to it completely, and there is no ambiguity in that at all.
和我们双方的国家的规模、人口的规模。
China has now become the #1 source of import for Nigeria, and Nigeria, for its part, is the biggest market for contracts for engineering projects by China in Africa and a main partner for investment.
The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is on tour of 5 African countries. In Abuja, Gabriel Udu, NTA News.
Now joining me in the studio is a former Nigeria's ambassador to Liberia, Ambassador Ayo Adigo, to look at Nigeria's position on the One China policy. Now you have the Foreign Affairs Minister talking about Nigeria officially severing diplomatic ties with Taiwan. Now, what's your take on that? What's your position?
Let me first and foremost correct you. Nigeria has never had diplomatic relations with Taiwan. What we have had over the years is trade office in Taipei.
Okay.
When I was consul general in Hong Kong, I was there. So, but the main issue here is that the One China policy that the Chinese government has said is a diplomatic recognition of China as the main Chinese government all over the world. There are no two Chinese governments. That had to be clear because some people try to mix One China principle with One China policy. They are not the same. But that is the one that some countries are taking when they still have this dispute after the 1949 crisis, which the communists in mainland and then the renegade group in Taiwan. On the basis of that, the One China principle, as people used to misuse, is that China is composed of both Taiwan and mainland China, which is unacceptable. That principle is ambiguous. So the Chinese government now are saying that there's only one Chinese government and Chinese people everywhere in the world, and they come under the government in Beijing. So in diplomatic relations, you relate with sovereign states. You don't relate with renegade states.
Okay. Because
there are issues involving recognition of etc. I don't want to go into that. Over the years, I know during the Obasanjo regime, the Chinese government has protested having a Taiwanese trade office in Lagos or in Abuja here. They cannot cohabit. They find it highly insulting to Chinese One China principle. So on the basis of that, the announcement and the agreement signed yesterday between the Minister of Foreign Affairs, our minister, and the Chinese is very, very clear. It does not recognize anymore the issue of One China principle. It's One China policy. And that on the basis of that, all official ties in any form with Taiwan must cease immediately.
So the question of relocate to anywhere in Nigeria, either Lagos or anywhere, does not come to play.
As long as this agreement is signed, it was very clear it's One China policy. Any form of contact cannot be official, and it will be irritating to the smooth strategic relations between us and China, presently ongoing. And as long as you permit that, it means you have not lived to the terms of the agreement, and irritants in a relation will be based on that, because the Chinese are very sentimental about that. They don't compromise that. It will be a sort of problem in our relationship such things. So I think the federal government now will tell the Taiwanese trade mission to relocate outside Nigeria.
But there's a move that strongly objected, Taiwan has strongly objected to its relocation of the current stance of Nigeria. They're saying that China that is putting pressure on Nigeria.
They don't have diplomatic basis to question Nigeria's sovereign right to determine the course of diplomatic relations with countries. But as you can see, how robust our relations with China is, we stand more to gain with dealing with a sovereign state, very powerful in the international system, even in the UN. Taiwan is a renegade state. In fact, it's diplomatically isolated. Even from 1949, they try to get recognition, but they can't get it. And I believe why China is very concerned about it is the recent coming on board of Donald Trump as the American president. And on the basis of that, that Donald Trump gave a call to the premier of Taiwan, and that irritates America, and it will be an issue on their relation. But Nigeria relation is the biggest market for China. The greatest engineering was, and as you can see, in terms of relation, trade, and infrastructural development, we stand more to gain with China. And our people also are there, the relation is robust. So you cannot afford to offend China because of Taiwan. Okay. So I believe this is very clear enough, and it's most welcome.
I'd like to say thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We have been talking to former Nigeria's ambassador to Liberia, Ambassador Ayo Adigun. Moving on now, the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology is advocating the use of solar as a renewable energy, as well as its production, research, and innovation as key to diversify sources of power in the country. The minister gave the indication while on a visit to National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI Solar Energy Limited at Karshi, Abuja, for on-the-spot assessment. Justin Bemui reports.
NASENI Solar Energy Limited is the first solar panel manufacturing company in West Africa, having a 7.5 megawatt capacity manufacturing plant, which produces all sizes and capacities of solar PV module. But for the inability to process from local raw materials, the factory is now operating at lowest capacity and cannot compete favorably in terms of cost with foreign products of lower quality that are mostly overrated. NASENI identifies solar cells to represent 65% and most important material for solar PV production.
Silicon that is needed for production of solar cells is abundant in commercial quantity in Nigeria. This production line will also avail us the opportunity to explore and develop 100% raw material locally.
The visit of the Minister of Science and Technology to inspect the plant at this time has given hope for its revival, as he pledged full support of the ministry to ensure its mandate is realized for the interest of the nation.
And I believe for us, for a start, if we're able to use locally available materials for our solar panels, then we will bring down the cost considerably.
Justin Bemuni, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. The news continues shortly.
Hear the call of change, stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, Ogerula. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Welcome back. Nigeria has developed a strategic plan and roadmap to achieve zero hunger by 2030. The document was designed under the leadership of former President Segun Obasanjo to serve as a guide for policy and lawmakers towards eradication of hunger and malnutrition, as well as ensure food security in the country. Musa Baba Aliyu reports.
The Zero Hunger Strategy is designed to articulate what government at all levels must do to ensure the actualization of Sustainable Development Goal 2 by the year 2030 through an open and consultative process. The main target of the strategic plan is hunger eradication through access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food before the end of the targeted period. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo expressed the hope that the initiative will support and encourage the government to implement the policies, strategies, plans, and programs that have been formulated over the years for food stability. The former president commended President Muhammadu Buhari for endorsing the Nigeria Zero Hunger Strategic Review.
We must give agribusiness a new image and make farmers the kings which they are, as sustainers of lives and foundations of economic activities. Put another way, agribusiness must be dignified and agriculture must be made glamorous.
The global strategy for infant and young child feeding talks about inappropriate feeding techniques in many of these areas, and the issue of education and poverty. And to really achieve zero hunger, we need to tackle these root causes.
The strategic plan will be implemented in 4 selected states, which are Benue, Ebonyi, Ogun, and Sokoto.
We can offer technologies which are completely advanced in the 4 states and for the country.
All hands must be on deck to ensure that not only that we formulate this policy, we must ensure that we implement it to the letter.
The development of the document was with the support of the United Nations agencies, the African Development Bank, and the private sector. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
I'm still talking food and agriculture. The United Nations Industrial Development Organization is partnering government agencies, especially the media, to create awareness on food safety in Nigeria. UNIDO food safety expert John Tenshe said there is at a meeting with the Director General of the Voice of Nigeria, Osita Okechukwu, in Abuja. Adibola Brooks this Sunday reports.
Agricultural development is one of the major priorities of the present administration towards actualizing its diversification policy. To gain consumers' confidence, food safety, especially in the food value chain, is paramount. And this is the reason the group is collaborating with the Voice of Nigeria to create awareness ahead of its first food safety forum in Nigeria coming up next month.
Publicize and tell the world what UNIDO is doing, and also to help in the same way to thank UNIDO for trying to let the world know that there's a change in Nigeria. There's a new president who is committed in leveraging the quality of the Nigerian people. The president has a premium on agriculture, the quality type.
For us to be able to build confidence. And if you are building confidence, the first thing to do is to be able to put your system in the right perspective. So what we are trying to do now is to align our system to international standards. Once that alignment is done, the confidence will come.
The group advocated food value chain improvement to ensure Nigeria produce compete favorably in the international markets. Adebola, Brookslyn Sunday, NTA News.
The National Bureau of Statistics to release no fewer than 162 reports on different sectors of the economy this year. Here is Chazala Mekie with this and more on Business News.
It's good to have you join us on Business News segment. Nigeria has reclaimed its position as Africa's top oil producer, beating Angola. Angola has led the African oil-producing countries with 1.7 million barrels of crude oil per day for 7 straight months. But figures from the oil market report of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries reveals that the crude oil production from Nigeria increased over that of Angola. These experts say should be sustained.
So we should just look at that as, hey, this is a fantastic opportunity for us to have some more money to use for the right things and to diversify our economy.
And the Senate has been urged to quickly commence approval of the 2017-2019 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. This, according to experts, will facilitate the workings of the budget.
In essence, we are saying that even the preparation and presentation of the estimates without an approved MTEF on its own is a violation of the law.
And finally, a quick check on trading figures on the Nigerian stock markets. That's the package at this time. I'm Chiazalam Eki. The news continues. Please stay with us.
The Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Aisha Abubakar, says the federal government is committed to providing a platform for the aspirations of next generation of women through activities that promote inclusive growth and sustainable development. Vivian Idekwefo reports that the minister was addressing a cross-session of development partners and other stakeholders at the official flag-off of the Women in Investment and Enterprise project in Abuja.
Data from the federal government reveals that women entrepreneurs account for about 43% ownership of micro-enterprises, but only 10% of these women have access to finance needed to successfully launch a new venture, let alone grow the existing business. The federal government, in a conscious effort to diversify the economy, has put in place policies that are strategically geared towards creating wealth and employment through structural transformation. The Women in Investment and Enterprise project is focused on exposing women to access to markets, finance and capacity building, which the minister said are key elements for ensuring sustainable and profitable micro, small and medium enterprises.
So I'm very confident that this winning project is going to be a workable solution that will address some of the challenges facing micro businesses predominantly owned by our own women.
Ogun State will continue to be partner in progress in this initiative.
7 states have been nominated to take part in the first phase of the project. In Abuja, Vivian Idekwefo, NTA News.
Over now to Basi Taipang for stories trending on the forest scene.
We begin this segment with Kenya, where members of Kenyan Doctors Union have been suspended for 1 month for failing to call off the ongoing strike, which has slowed down operations in public hospitals. The Employment and Labor Relations Court ordered the union to end the strike and finalize negotiations with government within the next 2 weeks. Several attempts to end the strike have failed as doctors want the full implementation of a deal signed in 2013 to improve the doctors' pay and working conditions. And the government in Angola says it has recorded its first 2 cases of Zika virus just 3 months after a yellow fever epidemic that killed 400 people was brought under control. The viral disease carried by mosquito has spread to more than 60 countries and territories since an outbreak was identified in Brazil in 2015, raising alarm over its ability to cause a rare birth defect. Germany's cabinet has approved the deployment of 8 attacks and transport helicopters, as well as 350 additional soldiers to Mali as part of UN peacekeeping mission. The helicopters will replace those of the Dutch army. The additional troops will service and maintain the fleet. After the deployment, Germany will have about 1,000 soldiers in Mali, taking part in the 15,000-strong UN mission that oversees a peace deal agreed in 2015 between the government and the rebels. Basi Taipang, NTA News.
Now sports. Super Eagles now 50th in the world and 7th on the continent in latest FIFA ranking as FC Fayuba relished Charity Cup victory. Dende Sonny is our guide on sports update.